So is EBITDA just another fad that died with disco, boxy cars, and shoulder pads?
Well, I think the baggy jeans are coming back, but dude, we are so back right now. EBITDA is making a comeback, and it's because of all these AI companies. AI companies are reawakening the original spirit of EBITDA because these aren't lightweight software businesses running lean. They're big and they have chunky infrastructure spending. They have racks of GPUs just melting off the wall. They have custom silicone. They have private data centers with enough wattage to light up a small city.
So you're telling me it's hardware heavy, it's capital intensive. You need a lot of like real stuff.
Yes, we're back to stuff, Ben. It's the spiritual equivalent to cable, just with more H100s and fewer coaxial lines. And here's where it gets wild. You didn't call out my twist that time. I surprised you. I got you. So,
Oh man.
some AI companies are now borrowing against their chips. Not Tostitos, they're AI chips. They're literally using GPUs as collateral to fund their operations. That's debt finance compute with EBITDA holding this whole narrative together.
Wait, but you just said that all these chips are like they're melting off the wall. They gotta replace them a bunch. So that expense it's almost like a recurring expense, no?
Yeah, and that's kind of what it should be. And you see all these companies making these funky changes on what we call the useful life of a chip, because you can't just use it again. It's not like the railroad boom where, hey, if this doesn't work out, we can still at least put like some cattle on this and move it from point A to point B. These things just get burnt up. And you really have to nail down what is the useful life of this? And is this an ongoing expense? Is it more OpEx, or is this something that's CapEx and I can play fast and loose between the lines of how fast I depreciate it? So according to the information, companies have used their high-powered chips to get more than $20 billion in loans so far.
Woo.
EBITDA is once again helping these businesses tell a story that separates the engine's output from the fuel it takes to run it. It makes aggressive spending feel more palatable to investors who are hungry for scale and more forgiving of net losses that are just buried under the piles of the silicone that's melted.
Where are we going with this?
Well, where we're going is like in many ways, the AI boom is the closest we've come to cable era Malone economics. Malone's back. Huge upfront investment, deferred monetization, and the hope that this infrastructure at scale, it'll eventually lead to dominance.
All right, Malone's back. He's back with a vengeance. He's a zombie, and maybe that's apropos because there's nothing behind those eyes.
He created a monster, Ben, and by the way, he also made a lot of people, including himself, very, very rich. So if you were wondering, Malone sold TCI for $48 billion in the late 1990s.
I've never heard of this company before, and so I did a little sleuthing on the side here, CJ. Do you know what TCI's successor is now?
No, who bought them?
They were bought by AT&T Broadband, so I believe they are now AT&T as we know them today.
Heroes never die. There is something interesting in all of this, right? There's a big difference between creating wealth and reporting income, right?
Yeah.
So it begs the question, what actually matters in all of this? And as Munger's partner in crime, Warren Buffett, was famous of saying, when we see companies that say, hey, we don't pay any taxes because we don't have any earnings for tax purposes, that's coming very close to a flim-flam game.
See, I knew he would come back to the Dairy Queen king himself.
It all starts and ends with ice cream, right? Well, funny enough, if you were to ask Munger and Buffett what made them most angry about EBITDA, it was the treatment of depreciation, which actually surprised me. So Buffett called it negative float. You essentially paid for assets up front before you ever get any use or value out of them. And he said it's literally the worst type of expense there is out there.
The cost of that float was less than zero. And that is a very valuable asset.
I'll give you an analog. If you paid all your employees up front for 5 years of future work, and then you mark down a non-cash expense in years 2 through 4, you still paid them, right? So in that sense, depreciation is as real of an expense as you can possibly get. And we're ignoring it.
And we're ignoring it a lot with the AI companies that we're paying for these chips that we're going to have to replace anyway.
Yeah. And so it seems we've come back to a world where free cash flow matters the most. And EBITDA, while it's close, it's not exactly the same thing. You can't adjust cash flow. You have to be honest about that. It just is what it is.
Okay.
And not to get too political on you, but EBITDA is in many ways like a democracy. It's the least worst system of measurement between industries and capital structure. It's kind of like the most portable metric we have in a very imperfect toolkit.
So do you think, is EBITDA here to stay, or we just kind of see it go in waves again? Like we're in the 80s again, but then maybe in another 10 years, we're seeing it go away. What's the deal there?
I think it's here to stay, and we all just have to be honest with ourselves. A few companies are definitely burying recurring legal bills below the line or adjusting earnings because the oranges didn't grow in Florida. But if everyone just juices their metrics in different ways, unfortunately, the only fair comparison is to create an equally juiced up field. EBITDA and even adjusted EBITDA, I hate to say it, introduce the least penalization across the board, which keeps comparability intact.
This kind of reminds me of the steroid era in baseball. It's like if everyone's juicing, like, what matters? Or as the famous supervillain Syndrome said in The Incredibles, if everyone's super, no one will be.
When everyone's super, no one will be.
It's all bullshit. Everyone may as well just be bullshitters. Long live EBITDA. Everyone in finance is adopting AI right now. There's a problem, because there are a dozen disconnected tools. You got one for revenue, one for AP, one for close, and each one of these needs training and documentation. And the expertise to run them lives in your team's heads, not your systems. Maximore takes the opposite approach. One autonomous finance platform for the whole operation. Order to cash, procure to pay, the close, cash management, reporting, running on a single unified finance context that pulls from your ERP, billing, banks, even email and Slack. Maximore runs on self-learning agents that learn how your team already works. No prompts to write, no workflows to build, nothing to document. Every output is audit ready, and when a call needs human judgment, it escalates for review. Because the agents optimize, not just execute. And your KPIs improve. I'm talking about DSO, working capital, cash conversion. In fact, one PE-backed customer cut their close in half. Their audit findings from 7 to 0, back office costs down 70%. And in 6 months, no ERP rip and replace. You pay only for real outcomes, not seats. See it at maximore.ai. That is maximor.ai.